Hi, and welcome to String Theory with Anthony Douglas. I am your host, Anthony Douglas, and here, yes, things are a little trashed out in here today. Actually, I've got the 1953 Fender String Master quad, the four neck, which is completely ridiculous. I love it. I love it because it is ridiculous. But it does serve purposes. And of course today, string theory, we get to really live up to that with this String Master. Yes, we're changing strings on this thing. This is how you do it. For you kids that have never done this before, you have a wire cutter, and you just cut your strings, and work it this way. You know, you get up here, you cut, and just keep cutting until they're off. Who knows, maybe these strings have been on here since 1954. I know I've been playing on them quite a bit, and they're dead, and they need to be changed. There we go. An incredible mess. And now if you're doing this to your little 6-string lap steel, this is a 4/8, but if you're doing it to a 6-string or an 8-string or a 10-string, a 12-string or a 14-string, it really doesn't matter. You know that once you do this, you've got a complete mess. But that's why you love watching String Theory and watching us live up to our name. Okay, so now, as you can see, you're going to need either electric drill with one of these on the end of it, or you're going to need, this manually. We've got one of these. I'm actually working on my electric drill one, but we've got this, and basically this is what you got going. So you have to undo these strings and put them in the trash. Unwind everything. When I'm doing this, when I'm changing strings on a straight steel like this, or a pedal steel, I usually think about where I've been, what I've done, the things that I've learned with the set of strings that I had on it. So from day one, I've been doing this, just kind of reflecting on what's made me better from the time that I put these strings on to now, what I've learned. What I've learned as a backup musician in bands, what I've learned as a solo musician in my own productions. And we give it our best shots, we try, we get better as we go. So I started on violin in 1976, and pretty soon I started wanting to play the steel guitar, and then getting just a straight guitar and learning that, and putting a slide on a straight guitar, and then going to one of these, which was a single neck, and trying that, and then playing pedal steel, taking lessons, playing in bands, playing in the orchestra, that's kind of what I reflect on. I reflect on a lot of the things that has led me to change a set of strings here at String Theory. And so back before I started in 1976, I was just dragging my dad's violin around and putting it on the floor. You know, they have pictures of me when I was like 2.5 years old, putting stuff on the floor and running the bow across it, you know, and trying it that way. I don't even remember my first time playing, honestly. I mean, I don't know what got me into this. I guess I got me into this not even knowing, but, you know, I would watch my dad play and then, you know, mimic my dad. I think that's how we got started. And they have had movie pictures of me walking up to my dad as he was playing the violin and, you know, taking it away from him and then me trying to play it. And so by 1976, I told my dad I wanted to do it. I wanted him to teach me, or I wanted this. He said, well, you got to take lessons. I didn't even know what lessons were. And he said, well, I want you to learn the right way. So he got me to a private instructor that did classical music, stuff that he didn't do, you know, as a country fiddle player. And I wanted to be a country fiddle player. You know, I didn't know anything about this classical music or anything. They trained me to be a classical violinist. And then one day, my mother said, you think you could play like your dad? One of the songs that your dad plays? I said, well, I think I can. And I think I tried. I played the Wabash Cannonball, and I played one of Bob Wills' tunes, the San Antonio Rose, and my mother says, hey, to Tony Sr., get in here, listen to him, he can sound just like you. And so my dad got in, and instead of being all upset or jealous or anything like that, he was all happy. Tony Sr. was a great guy. Taught me a lot. And always was in the car before I was ready to go to the gig. They used to call us the Rolling Tones. Tony Jr. and Tony Sr. They'd go, here comes the Rolling Tones. So I miss my dad a lot, you know. The only way to bring him back is to grab a violin and start playing like him. And so I'm glad I learned how to play like him. And do some of that, you know. That's I can't tell you people that still have your parents how important it is to spend time with them. You know, if they want to go fishing with them. You know, if they want to go hunting with them. You know, spend time with them. Very important. And then you'll be able to do what I'm doing right here and say, we did all this great stuff together. You know, I remember going, he built little buildings for towers, you know, huge communication towers that you see way up on hills and stuff. So that's what Tony Sr. did. And he'd have me out there as a kid, working around with him, you know, and I remember going to the job with him and he says, no, man, you don't want to be doing this. Tony Sr. says, you want to stay in the bars where you're at, because he says, you want to be a player. You don't want to be doing what I'm doing. And so he was extremely supportive of the music. So if you people have kids, you really need to be supportive of, you know, if this is what they're digging, then, you know, be supportive of that. Because I can certainly look back and see how supportive my parents were. People say to me all the time, my gosh, you were 13 years old playing in a bar. How could your parents do that to you? And I just look at them and say, that's how I got good. That's how I became a professional at age 13, working with multiple bands around the area. So it was illegal, big deal. What isn't? Right? So they made sure that I was hanging out with professionals, being around the professional scene, constantly, if I had to reinvent myself or something, they were all for it. If I wanted to quit a band and I was sick of it, they were for it. If I'd had enough of people, they were for it. If I was having a great time, they were for it. They were supportive. And I can sit here now and look back as I'm changing these strings and go, wow. One time my dad, he was very tired at night. I was 13 years old, Actually, that's when I started. I think I was, I don't know, I could have been 13 or 14 at this time, but he was very tired. I'd been working in a bar, and he said, Tony, I'm going to come back to get you. He said, I'm tired. I got work the next day. So he went home and got some sleep while I was playing in the bar. And people say, you mean your parents left you in the bar all by yourself? Look, I didn't get away with anything. My dad cleared it with the barmaid or the bartender, and I was heavily watched. They didn't let me drink. They didn't let me do drugs. They didn't let me get in trouble, and I wasn't there to do any of that. I was there to pick. So, did I get in trouble with the liquor board? Yes. Yes, I got into trouble with the liquor board. One time the liquor board pulled me out and they said, hey, they made my parents stay inside the bar and they took me outside. And they said, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm the ice boy. He says, yeah, that's what they said inside. They put you behind the bar real nice, but we know you're working here tonight. Gigging. And I says, I'm going to tell you guys something. Why don't you get all the alcohol and drugs out of my school and then come back here and talk to me? Because I'm not here for any of that. I'm here to pick. This is what I do. I'm here to play my instrument. He says, we told you what we told you. If we catch you doing that here again, we're going to throw you to jail. And they left. And my parents came out and said, what did they say to you? I said, they said they were going to throw me to jail if I kept doing this. The next night, guess what I was doing? I was right back out doing it again. And that's really what it takes if you're going to amount to something in this business. It takes determination. You can't just let stuff like that detour you from what it is that you do. And I didn't let it scare me. And yeah, they came back, threatened my parents, told my parents that they were going to put me in a foster home. And take me away from them. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice how the state works? But that's how they were working. They had a job to do, and they were doing it. And but my parents and I, we never listened to them. And then things started getting more dangerous. But before all this happened, I actually had a real good principal. He and I got along real good. And we kept that undercover for like quite a long time before I was really getting hassled. And I remember he said to me, Tony, I never knew you did this. At nighttime, he says, can I just follow you from gig to gig? I said, sure, Mr. Fisher, you can follow me. He goes, we're just not going to say anything when we get back to school. He goes, you love to play that fiddle, right? I said, yeah. He goes, well, I love to drink. He said, so I'll just follow you wherever you go. So my principal was part of my following, and we did that for a long time before other people started to realize that what I was doing, you know, in the places that I was working, you know. But when things started to heat up too bad, my dad had a job building condominiums in California. So the school called up and said, hey, we hear you've been missing, you know. Excuse me, they ask if I'm there. And yeah, he goes, well, I said, no, we're the new renters. And they said, oh, well, where did Tony go? Where is he? And I said, well, they didn't even say they were from the school. And I said, well, he's down in California on one of the towers with his dad. I didn't even say condominium. And so they said, well, we're the school, and they give me a number, and they said, if you see Tony, just have him call us. I said, yeah, okay, right. Took me down to California, got me into my dad. You know, I didn't even hardly get out of the car, and my dad says, I got this bar for you to play. I said, oh, terrific. I can't wait. So he took me to this family band, and, you know, I didn't really feel comfortable with them. They were working some bar rooms, and I just did not feel comfortable with them at the time, because somebody had put some illegal narcotics in my drink, and my dad saw it at one of the bars where I was working, and I was suffering at that time from, you know, hot flush, you know, just getting my face flushed, and just you know, I just didn't feel right around them. So he says, I think I got the right group for you. I just think I got this great group. I walked in, and it was a band. It was a Mexican group doing country music. He says, I think you're going to really like these guys. He said, let's go a few rounds with these guys, Tony. He'd say like I was a fighter. Go a few rounds with these guys, see what you think. So I went with them and, you know, played with them. And, you know, I think when I started, I played all scratchy at first, and then I just started getting better and better and better and better and until I was way good. And I did it on purpose, and they laughed. They thought that was the funniest thing. And they go, oh man, we got to have you, man. What do we do? And I said, yeah, you know, I says, I don't know if I want to do this with you. I said, I'm going through these flashbacks, you know. He goes, oh man, we're going through flashbacks too. He says, come on. And I says, yeah, sure, I'll join. And it was the right group. I mean, I did really good. I was working 5 nights a week with this group. You know, and this was back when I was about 15. And, you know, working out with them. And, yeah, I just had a great time. And then I did an opening show. Excuse me, I didn't do an opening show. I did an opening show for Johnny Lee with the country star Johnny Rodriguez. So I got to, at age 15, well, I had just turned 16, so I was 16 when I played the show with Johnny Rodriguez. And he was really good to me. And so Rodriguez and I hung out quite a bit together and had a lot to talk about. it was just great. You know, I just, I was a kid making a lot of money playing music and just doing what I was supposed to do. And then there was this guy, he comes in there from, at one of the bars I was playing. I think I was working the River Wharf at the time. He goes, "Hey, Tony, there's this cop at the bar. He wants to talk to you, and I'm 15, 16 years old. And I thought, oh no, not again. Just the same thing. The law's after me again with this thing. So I go up, I sit next to the cop. He goes, "Just sit down right here." So I sat down where he was, and he goes, "I just wanted to tell you how much fun I'm having, and how much I'm enjoying listening to you," and just went on and wants to come whenever he can, and boy, I'll tell you what, California was a lot better environment for me to play in than Washington, where I was getting hassled by the liquor board constantly. California at that time was more set up for, underage people doing what I was doing. So I was a happy camper. Well, here we've got all this off the guitar, and now I got to take some furniture polish to it and polish it up, and then I'll see you in the next video as we are putting more strings on it, and you can see how we're doing. All right, and if you have not hit the like button, have not hit subscribe, please do it. It helps the channel, and we will see you in the next video.